Alrighty, here we go. It's that time of year. The NFL season has come to an end, and now it's time for the official quarterback rankings brought to you by the Northwest Sportscast in affiliation with Couv Hoops. If you want to learn about basketball, go over to the Couv Hoops YouTube channel. That's our sponsor today. Couv Hoops, that's Couv with a C, Hoops with an H. Couv Hoops. All right, well, without further ado, let's get into it. It's the official quarterback rankings of the 2020 regular season, my rankings. So here we go. So I've broken them into some tiers, and we're going to start with Tier 7. This is Tier 7, not good. So these are the 32 starting quarterbacks. So without further ado, here we go. Number 32, Dwayne Haskins, Washington football team. Haskins took a step back this year. If I'm being completely honest, he was not as good as he was last year. Just one win out of 6 starts. He was 1-5. Completion percentage was over 60, but 5 touchdowns. Literally only 5 touchdowns in 6 games, as opposed to 7 interceptions. Quarterback rating was 73, and he can't run the ball either. Just 46 yards, 1 touchdown there. So bad stats. He had some off the field issues. Obviously wearing no mask at a strip club. Also was benched for bad work ethic. Did get to come back in, start a couple more games that he lost when Alex Smith got injured, and then getting released not even by the end of the season. And they chose to go with Taylor Heineke instead of him in the playoffs. So that just shows you how bad Dwayne Haskins was this year. He's number 32. Number 31, Sam Darnold, New York Jets. A lot of people think that Sam Darnold should get one more chance. I disagree. He was very bad this year. He had 12 starts. He won just 2 of them at the very end. His completion percentage was under 60% and if I'm correct, that's one of just 3 quarterbacks whose completion percentage was under, one of just 2 starters with a completion percentage of under 60. He was 59.6, 9 touchdowns to just 11 interceptions. That's -2 touchdown to interception ratio. By the way, only 9 touchdowns in 12 starts. He averaged 3/4 of a touchdown per game. That's bad. Quarterback rating was 72.7. He did run the ball better than Dwayne Haskins, 217 yards and 2 touchdowns there, and he did get double the amount of wins as Haskins. That's why I put Darnold ahead of Haskins, but quite honestly, if Haskins had played the same amount of games, Darnold might have been number 32. All right, number 30, Nick Mullins, San Francisco 49ers. Mullins, in his 4th year, 25 years old, in his 2nd year as a starter, incredibly, because of injuries to Jimmy Garoppolo. So record 2-6. He was a pretty good 2-6 though. I felt like solid completion percentage, solid yards. Even on the touchdowns, 12 interceptions in 8 starts is not that good. Like that's not a good ratio. 12 interceptions to 8 starts. That's 1.5 interceptions per game. That's not a good. But 12 touchdowns. So I mean, he did all right. His rating was a lot higher than the other 2 guys, 84.1. On the ground, he can't do a thing. Just 8 rushing yards and no scores. All right, so now we get into number 6. This is below replacement level. So these quarterbacks, they don't get to be in the bad category. They're better than bad, but they're still below replacement level. They're still not quality starters at all. So here we go. Number 29, Drew Lock, Denver Broncos. I was really high on Lock going into the year. I'm not anymore. He had a very bad season in his 2nd year, 24 years old. 13 games. He did miss a couple, 2 due to an injury, 1 due to COVID, but he only won 4 games, so he went 4-9, which means his official NFL record is now 8-10, so he's below 500. 57.3% completion. That's the worst of all of these quarterbacks. He did almost make it to 3,000 yards despite not having his best receiver. And then, 16 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. So, once again, we're seeing the guys down here have interception problems. They have completion percentage and they have low completion percentages, and that's big reasons why they're down so low. And then, quarterback rating not that good. Rushing, he did score 3 touchdowns on the ground, but 160 yards is very much a meh stat. So, Drew Lock was very below average quarterback. I put him at below replacement level. I think if the Broncos have the chance, they should move on from Drew Lock. All right, number 28, Carson Wentz, Philadelphia Eagles. Wentz was shockingly terrible this year after having a good season last year. I mean, don't get me wrong, he was good last year. considering how injured his team was. But yeah, this year, 28 years old in his 5th season, he went just 3 games, 8-1. He was benched, 57.4% completion, so that was not good. 16 touchdowns to 15 interceptions. That's the same as Drew Lock. He did run the ball a lot more effectively than Lock, 276 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. He is more mobile, and he can move the pocket. So that's why I put him ahead of Lock, and also just because I feel like he does have more potential to bounce back than Lock does. Wentz will get another chance, unlike Drew Lock, because Wentz has shown in the past he can do it. Lock has not. So this is one down year for Wentz, but if Wentz has another bad year next year, he's done. All right, number 27, Andy Dalton, Dallas Cowboys. I did not expect him to be on this list at the start of the season. However, he was. So here we go. Andy Dalton in his 10th straight season as a starter. So he has, obviously, the memes and a lot of people don't like him, don't think he's much good, but he's in his 10th straight season as a starter, so he must be doing something right. Record was actually not bad, 4-5 through 9 games. He missed a couple because of an injury, bad concussion, 14 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, so it's all right. You would have wanted him to have more touchdown passes considering all the weapons he had around him, like Amari Cooper, Dalton Schultz, and CeeDee Lamb, and the name Michael Gallup, yeah. So, considering all the weapons he had, I feel like he should have had more touchdowns, but it's 14, it's all right. 87.3 rating, and didn't do anything on the ground, did get 114 yards, and 1 reception for -3 yards. There's Andy Dalton, almost got the Cowboys to a division title still. Number 26, Tua Tagovailoa, Miami Dolphins. Yeah, Tua time happened. He was fine. He would be higher had he played more than 9 games, because a lot of this list does take into account how many games you play. I'm not going to put someone in the top 20 if they haven't played at least what's close to a full season, because I just haven't seen enough of them. So Tagovailoa, he was 6-3. I feel like he got sort of carried by the defense, but he didn't look bad. Only 5 interceptions. That's the good news. 11 touchdowns. That's barely averaging more than 1 a game. That's something you need to improve. And rushing, 3 touchdowns, 109 yards. So not bad, but you have a feeling that he's probably not going to be the most mobile quarterback as he gets older. But yeah, he can still run the ball at least effectively right now. So there's Tua at 26. Number 25, Garner Minshew, Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, Garner Minshew he gets a lot of hate for being a Jaguar, and obviously they were not good. Just 1-7 in 8 games. He got benched for being too good. They basically benched him for Mike Glennon because they thought Mike Glennon got him a better chance at a number 1 pick. So I guess that's a compliment to Garner Minshew there, the 24-year-old. So of these quarterbacks who are in the below replacement level category, some of them are going to get another chance. Gardner Minshew is not one of them. Neither is Andy Dalton, and Drew Lock shouldn't get a chance, but he probably will. Carson Wentz will, and Tua Tagovailoa obviously is going to have another chance because he was a rookie. But Gardner Minshew is not going to get another chance at a starter. He's going to be a backup, and he should. He's in the backup, right? Below replacement level, right? He should be replaced. 16 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. That's a pretty good ratio right there. So I think he would be a really solid backup and a 95.9 rating. But unfortunately, just not enough games and just a 1-7 record. I have to put him below replacement level. I know he had a bad team. The stats look pretty good, but yeah, he did have 1 rushing touchdown and 1 reception for 0 yards. So finally, the last quarterback in the below replacement level category is number 24, Daniel Jones, New York Giants. The second-year player, 23 years old. He'll get another chance, but I don't think he deserves very many more. A lot of people thought that Jones took a step up this year, but I don't think so. I put him at 24 last year, and I put him at 24 again this year. He was the 24th best quarterback both seasons. He's a below replacement level quarterback. He only won 5 games, right? He went 5-9, 14 games. He missed a couple. Almost made it to 3,000 yards, 11 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, right? What are you doing here, buddy? 11 touchdowns in 14 games. That's bad. That's not good. He's averaging like somebody else. I think was it Locke? Somebody else. He's averaging literally 3/4 of a touchdown per. Oh, it was Sam Darnold who had that. 3/4 of a touchdown per game. That's not a good ratio at all. He does run the ball pretty well. 423 yards. We've all seen the falling over video, and 1 rushing touchdown. So now we're into tier 5, and my tier 5, I'm calling it depends on the situation, because these are quarterbacks who This year, either they were bad, but they were in a bad situation, or they were good, but they were in a good situation. So here we go. 23, Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals. So he is not below replacement level, despite having not that great of stats, because I think he was in a bad situation. So here we go. 23, Joe Burrow, 1 season, 24 years old, pretty old for being his first season. Went 2-7-1, not very good. He did beat the Titans, which I was impressed with. 65.3% completion, so right there. Only 5 picks, which is good to see from a rookie. But only 13 touchdowns. So if you blew it up, if he had played a full season, he probably would have had around 20 touchdowns and maybe like 8 or 9 picks. So that's a pretty good ratio for a rookie. 89.8 rating and 142 yards with 3 rushing touchdowns as well. The one thing I will say, though, the Bengals did beat the Steelers with a backup. So you have to wonder, I mean, how much is Joe Burrow really helping that team? So we'll have to see how he is next year when he gets back. Hopefully he'll be better. So now we got number 22, Mitch Trubisky, Chicago Bears. So he's in the category of bad quarterback, but in a really good situation. So the opposite of Burrow. Burrow's good quarterback, bad situation. Trubisky's bad quarterback in a good situation, right? Good coach, good defense, good weapons. Pretty favorable playoff scenarios, considering that literally all they had to do was win 8 games to make the playoffs. 2020, though, in his 4th season, 26 years old, he went 6-3 in 9 games. Credit where he's due, he has not had a losing record since his rookie season. Right, 6-3 this year, 8-7 last year, and I believe he was 11-3 2 years ago. So yeah, I mean, credit where credit's due. The fact that he knows how to win games. 67% completion, so actually completed the ball pretty well. 2,055 yards, 16 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. That's pretty good, 2-to-1 ratio. 93.5 rating, 195 rushing yards, and a touchdown. I think he benefited a lot from the situation. He benefited a lot from having Allen Robinson and a fairly solid receiving core behind Allen Robinson. Jimmy Graham had a resurgence as well, so I don't know if you can judge much from Mitch Trubisky's season. I put him in, depends on the situation. All right, number 21, Cam Newton, New England Patriots. I'm putting this as good quarterback in a bad situation. You might be shocked to hear that I think that Cam Newton's still a good quarterback, but I do think he's still a good quarterback. I think the Patriots held him back. The fact that they didn't have any good receivers, the fact that they didn't really have a good running game either. Their defense was missing a ton of players on the COVID list. Their coaching, I thought, was terrible this year. They used Cam Newton absolutely terribly. You know, look, the fact that he, in 15 games, 31 years old, right, he still managed to rush for 12 touchdowns, 592 yards. He also caught 2 passes, 35 yards, and a touchdown. So he can pass, he can catch, and he can run. Rating was only 82.9. He only threw 8 touchdowns to 10 interceptions, right? They're not letting him throw it all. 2,657 yards. But he still had a 65.7% completion percentage. Not that bad. And his record was 7-8. He almost had a winning record in 15, right? I mean, why are we pretending that he's bad? He's not bad. He was in a bad situation. He had terrible weapons. I thought the coaching, the way that they used him was terrible, right? Under no circumstances should a quarterback have only one more touchdown pass than they do wins. But yet that's what happened. They used him far too much as a runner. They did not let him throw the ball enough. They also didn't have any receivers for him to throw to, so it's not really his fault. Cam Newton, 21. Number 20, Teddy Bridgewater, Carolina Panthers. Bridgewater, I think the experiment went pretty well. If I was them, I'd keep him. I put him in good quarterback, bad situation, but I think next year that situation will be better, and then it could be a good quarterback, good situation. He was really hot at the start of the season. He cooled down there at the end. The 28-year-old in his 7th season, only his 3rd, I believe, as a starter. Went 4-11, 15 games, yeah, so not that great. 15 touchdowns to 11 picks, 3,733 yards. That's the part what I'm impressed about, and a 69.1% completion percentage. He throws the ball, he completes it well. With a 92.1 rating and 5 rushing touchdowns, 279 yards. So he's actually quite mobile. You don't really think of him as a mobile guy, but he was quite mobile as well. So I would say if the Panthers should not draft a guy, a lot of people think the Panthers should draft a quarterback. I disagree with that. All right, at number 19, we got Matthew Stafford, Detroit Lions, the final quarterback in our, depends on the situation. He's another guy who I'd say is a good quarterback in a bad situation. In his 12th year, 32 years old now, so he's getting up there. They went 5-11, 16 games, 64.2 completion. He's our first quarterback on this list who went over 4,000 passing yards. He had 4,084. And the touchdown to interception ratio looks really good, 26-10, with a 96.3 rating and 112 rushing yards. He'd never scored on the ground. I think the Lions should probably keep Stafford at least for one more season, but I don't think they are planning to keep him for much longer. But I think he is a great guy to mentor whoever they decide to draft. So now we're into tier 4. This is my tier called average, decent, fine, whatever. These guys they're average, they're decent, they're fine, nothing special, but there's nothing bad about him either. So starting off, number 18, Drew Brees, New Orleans Saints. 41 years old in his 20th season. He went 9-3. I think a lot of that was because of Alvin Kamara, a great running game. Taysom Hill helped out, and one of the best defenses in the NFL, especially in the second half of the season. But you can't discount 9-3. 70.5 completion percentage, so he completes it really well. Almost made it to 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions. Granted, he did miss 4 games. With 106.4 rating, rushing -2 yards, but he did score 2 touchdowns. Drew Brees had a pretty good season. The reason I'm keeping him in average, decent, fine, whatever at 18, he did miss 4 games, and in those 4 games, they were 3-1, so I'm not sure how much he specifically contributed to that team. I think a lot more of it is just a great team around him that he's really benefiting from, but he doesn't hurt the team in any way. He certainly is a very good game manager at this point in his career. Number 17, Matt Ryan, Atlanta Falcons. 35 years old in his 13th season, which is, I believe, his worst record he's ever had. Maybe tied for that. 4-12, 65%, 4,581 yards. He did throw a lot of yards, and that, obviously, when you have guys like Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones on the field, you're going to throw for a lot of yards. 26 touchdowns to 11 interceptions, so, that's pretty much... That's good, right? You're better than 2-1. The rate was 93.3 and 92 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. So he's not very mobile, but he can run if he really needs to. Number 16, Baker Mayfield, Cleveland Browns. Yeah, he's in 16. This is like Mr. Average, right? 16th best, so right in the middle. But he is technically in the top half, and I think he deserves it. In his 3rd season, he went 11-5. The completion percentage is not very high. It's only 62.7% through 3,563 yards. 26 touchdowns to 8 interceptions, though. That's really good, right? That's better than 3-1. So he did not turn the ball over that much. 165 rushing yards, 1 touchdown. He also had 1 reception for 6 yards. Baker Mayfield was not that bad of a quarterback this year. Number 15, Jared Goff, Los Angeles Rams. I know he's very criticized, widely criticized, but the 26-year-old in his 5th season still did a pretty good job, 67% completion, almost hit 4,000 yards. If he played his last game, he would have. 9-6, 15 games. He got quite a few quality wins. He beat the Bears, the Seahawks, the Cardinals. He beat the Cardinals twice, yeah. So, he beat them once. John Wolford beat him the other time, yeah. But, and also beating the Buccaneers. So, there was good moments. There was also some pretty ugly losses. The Dolphins killed them. The Bills only beat him by a little at the end, but at the start it was a blowout. So, it's hard to know where Jared Goff goes from here. Will he get better? Will he get worse? I don't know. Only 99 rushing yards, so he's really becoming a pocket passer. 4 touchdowns, though, so he can scramble if necessary. 13 picks to 20 touchdowns. That's not a very good ratio there either. So, but he knows how to win. He knows how to win. He has a solid completion percentage. All right, now we're into tier 3. This is the good NFL starting quarterbacks. These are guys that I would consider them good, right? That tier was I called it fine, average, decent, whatever. This one is actually good. These guys are good. NFL starting, because keep in mind, I'm saying starting. Because if we're just going with like a good quarterback, all of these people are good quarterbacks. So this is good NFL level starters. These are the good ones. 14, Derek Carr, Las Vegas Raiders. He would have made the top 10 if you ended this list a couple weeks ago, but not anymore. 7th season, 29 years, so he's almost 30. He went 8-8, played all 16 games, although one of the games he barely played in. 67.3% completion percentage, 4,103 yards, 27 touchdowns to just 9 picks. That's pretty good, right? 3-1. With a 101.4 rating, 140 rushing yards, and 3 touchdowns. So pretty solid stats, right? Nothing I would really criticize there. The only problem was they went from being 6-3 to 8-8, and they lost, what was it? Yeah, they lost 5 out of the last 7 games. I think more of that to blame on the coaching and the defense than Derek Carr himself. I'd keep him. Number 13, Phillip Rivers, Indianapolis Colts. Who knows what's going on to happen with Rivers this offseason, but for now, let's just look at this season. In his 17th year, the 39-year-old went 11-5 with the Colts, which was three wins better than they did last year with Jacoby Brissett. His completion percentage just about hit 68%, 4,100 yards, 24 touchdowns to 11 picks, with -8 rushing yards. So keep in mind, but a quarterback rating that almost was 100. So I mean, with a 97 quarterback rating, that's not that bad at all. Number 12, Lamar Jackson, Baltimore Ravens, coming off his MVP season. Last year, I ranked him number 1. This year, I rank him number 12. I still think he's a good NFL starter. Mid-season, there was a lot of criticism, but his stats pretty much managed to get pretty good. I mean, look at this. 15 games, he went 11-4, 64.3 completion. That's not that great, and only 2,700 passing yards, which is not that good. But still, 26 touchdowns, only 9 picks. His rating was very close to 100, 99.3, and he rushed for 1,005 yards, so his second straight 1,000-yard rushing season with 7 more touchdowns. He got the Ravens to the playoffs. He won, I think, 5 straight to end the season. I would not criticize Lamar Jackson nearly as much as many others would. I think he was borderline top 10, and that's where I have him. Number 11, Kirk Cousins, Minnesota Vikings. So here we go. Kirk Cousins in his 9th year, 32 years old now. He went 7-9, which, by the way, that's his worst record he's ever had. So despite all the criticism, love him or hate him, Kirk Cousins knows how to win football games. He played every game this year, 67.6% completion. That's pretty good. 4,200 passing yards, so he managed to get a lot of passing yards. That's the second most so far on this list, behind Matt Ryan. 35 touchdowns to just 13 picks. That's really good, right? 35 touchdowns. I mean, yeah, it's actually not 3-1. However, I mean, 13 picks is quite a few, but 35 touchdowns. You don't really think of them as a 35 touchdown team. You think of them as sort of a below average. Rating 105. Kirk Cousins had a rating of 105. Rushing yards, 156 yards and 1 touchdown. So yeah, Kirk Cousins, a lot of mockery, a lot of criticism, but he was still a borderline top 10. I think he was like number 8 for me last year. I have him at 11 this year. Number 10, Ben Roethlisberger, Pittsburgh Steelers. So we're into the top 10 now. Roethlisberger, 38 years old, 12-3 record, 15 games. So despite, I know, once again, a lot of criticism that came from Big Ben this year, but he still went 12-3. Yeah, I think he did benefit a lot from the defense. I'm going to be honest. Kirk Cousins did not benefit at all from the defense. He had one of the worst defenses in the league. Big Ben had one of the best defenses and really great coaching as well. But nevertheless, 12-3, 65.6% completion, 3,800 yards. I will say, the fact that he didn't get to 4,000 yards is pretty sad, considering that the receivers that he had. Once again, to be fair, the receivers did drop a lot of passes. To be fair. 33 touchdowns to 10 picks, so that's better than 3-1. So, yep, again, everyone always said, oh, Big Ben throws too many picks. 33 touchdowns to 10 picks, and that's better than 3-1. Rating 94.1, rushing, he had 11 yards and no scores. So he can't run the ball. He's not mobile. But we knew that. We knew he wasn't mobile. A lot of people think Big Ben is too old and should retire and it looks washed up. I disagree. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. I think there is still a very real chance that they can win this division again next year or even the year after that. I think when Big Ben can play till he's 40, I think he can. All right, well, now we're into Tier 2. This tier is the franchise quarterbacks. These are guys who I don't think who should stay with their team for at least 3 or 4 years. These are franchise quarterbacks. Well, one of them won't stay for more than 3 years because, well, we'll get to him. But first, number 9, Justin Herbert, Los Angeles Chargers. In his first year, he actually went 6-9, right? You don't think of the Chargers as good, but only 6-9 is not bad. 66% completion, 4,336 yards. Wow. 31 touchdowns to 10 picks, right? So that's actually worse than Big Ben. So before you say Big Ben is bad, remember, Justin Herbert had a worse touchdown to interception ratio. Rating 98.3 and rushing 234 yards and 5 rushing touchdowns. So he's mobile, he runs the ball, he throws touchdowns, he throws for a lot of yards, good completion percentage, solid quarterback rating. Justin Herbert looks good. Next up, we got number 8, Ryan Tannehill, Tennessee Titans. In his ninth season, 32-year-old, 11-5 with a 65% completion percentage, 3,800 yards, 32 touchdowns to just 7 picks. That is really good. So now we're at guys who really have good. That's almost 5-1. That's almost 5 touchdowns to 1 pick. That's really good. A rating was 106.5. That's the highest we've seen as far as I am aware. So far, that's the highest we've seen. Rushing 266 yards and 7 touchdowns. You don't think of Ryan Tannehill as mobile, but 266 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns, and he had a reception too. Tannehill was good this year. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's the offensive coordinator. A lot of people think that. A lot of people, I think his name is Arthur Smith. A lot of people think maybe Mike Vrabel, but whatever it was, Ryan Tannehill has had a good season and winning his division. Number 7, Deshaun Watson. So, yeah, I still don't think Tannehill is the best quarterback in that division. Deshaun Watson's still better. In his 4th season, Deshaun Watson went 4-12, but despite that, 70.2% completion and almost 5,000 yards, 4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns to 7 picks, so the same exact ratio as Tannehill. Rating is 112.4. That's the highest we've seen now. Rushing 444 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he also runs the ball well. He's mobile. He throws. He doesn't throw very many interceptions. Really high rating, a ton of yards, and still with just a 4-12 record. I mean, so I do put a lot of emphasis on wins, right? I do a point system. That's part of the way that I rank these guys, and I give 7 points for a win, and I also deduct 7 points for a loss. So if he had just won 4 more games, that would have been a 56-point swing in his favor, which would have put him into the top 5. But unfortunately, those losses, yeah. So anyways, number 6, Kyler Murray, Arizona Cardinals. So we got Murray, second year, went 8-8. Hot start, similar to the Raiders. They were 6-3, ended up at 8-8. 67% completion percentage, 3,900 yards. So he almost made it to 4,000 yards. 26 touchdowns to 12 picks. So it's a little bit better than 2-1. 94.3 rating. So you might be thinking, well, how is he so high? Well, the reason is because of the rushing. 819 rushing yards and 11 touchdowns. That's really good. Kyler Murray was a great quarterback as far as just being able to be a dual threat. I would say he's the second best dual threat quarterback in the league right now. And it's sad for him that he only got 8 wins, and he did play through injuries pretty much the entire second half of the season, even leaving the game in favor of Chris Streveler after just one drive in the win it or you're out Week 17 game that they lost to the Rams in. So Kyler Murray, I would put him at number 6. I think he is not top 5, but he's close. All right, number 5, Tom Brady, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How about Tom Brady? Still in the top 5. This is the one quarterback of my franchise quarterbacks that won't be sticking with his franchise for very long because he has to retire soon, right? 43 years old. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. If he plays to 45, I'd be shocked. There's a very good chance he retires after next year. But yeah, 11-5, which is pretty much what everyone thought they would do. 65% completion, 4,600 yards. 4,633 yards for a 43-year-old. I mean, the stats are... I mean, you would think that 10 years ago, if I told you Tom Brady would throw for 4,600 yards when he's 43, you would tell me I'm... 40 touchdowns also to 12 picks. 40-12, so what's that? I mean, that's better than 3-1. 12 picks is quite a few, but when you're throwing 40 touchdowns and 4,600 yards, I get it. 102.2 rating, and his rushing yards, I like this stat, 6 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he averaged, 2 yards per touchdown. That must be the best yards per touchdown ratio. Well, actually, that's not, because Drew Brees had a -1 yards to touchdown ratio with his -2 yards and 2 touchdowns. All right. Well, at this point, we've made it to the top tier. Tier number 1. This is the elite quarterbacks. These 4 guys are the elitist. These 4 are the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. All 4 of them made the Pro Bowls alongside Murray and Watson. So yeah, it is starting to look like Brady not making the Pro Bowl was maybe that was a kind of a snub. I mean, I didn't think so at the time, but Tom Brady did get hot there at the end of the season. But I guess I would say it wasn't a snub because there's definitely an argument to be made that Kyler Murray deserved it. At the time when Kyler Murray was chosen, I agreed with the decision. I don't agree with it anymore, but I guess it's like, well, they don't pick the Pro Bowlers until like week 13, and Brady got really hot in like week 15, so What can you say? I mean, whatever. So tier number 1, these are the elite guys. Number 4, Russell Wilson, 32 years old in his 9th season, went 12-4, his second best record he's ever had. 68.8% completion, 4,200 yards, 40 touchdowns to 13 picks. So that's just slightly better than 3-1, with a rating of 105.1. And you don't think of Wilson as a rusher anymore, but 513 yards and 2 touchdowns. I will say, Russ, through the first half of the season, was the best quarterback in the NFL, and he was cooking, and then the offensive coaching got paranoid of him throwing picks, so they stopped letting him cook. They tried to move to the run game, and his stats suffered, and the team suffered, and that's why the Seahawks very much slumped their way into the playoffs. But anyways, Russell at 4. I agree with it. Number 3, Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs. I thought for a long time he was going to be number 1 as well. It was Russ at first, then it was Mahomes. But in the end, it was not Mahomes. Mahomes finishes 14-1 in 15 games. So, I mean, yeah, you can't really argue with 14-1. That's his main argument to be number 1 in his 4th season. Yeah, 25 years old, so he still has a long ways ahead of him. 66% completion, that's good. 4,740 yards, that's a lot of yards. He does have some great receivers, though. I'll give him this. He has great receivers and great coaching. But yeah, 32 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions to 38 touchdowns. So looking at that, that ratio is, what is that? It's like 6-1, better than 6-1. That's a really good ratio right there. He does not turn the ball over. 108.2 ratings. That's the second highest we've seen so far, and rushing 308 yards and just 2 touchdowns. So yeah, Patrick Mahomes, you can't really argue with him not being in the top 3. He has to be in the top 3. There's definitely an argument to be made that he's number 1. I mean, you look at the record, 14-1, and 38 touchdowns and only 6 picks. But I will say I did not think he was the best. So here we go. Number 2, Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills. It was hard for me to put Allen ahead of Mahomes, especially because Mahomes did beat Josh. But I'm doing with Allen. So 3rd year, 24 years old, 13-3 record. Played every game, 69% completion. That's a really good completion percentage for him, considering last year he was like 58%. 4,500 yards, 37 touchdowns, and just 10 picks. So that's almost 4-1 there, with a 107.2 rating, 421 rushing yards, and 8 touchdowns. Wow. He had 8 rushing touchdowns, and that's really good. And also he also caught a touchdown pass, 1 reception for 12 yards and a touchdown there. So he's very much a dual threat. I would say he's the 3rd best dual threat quarterback in the NFL behind Lamar and Kyler Murray. And with that, we've made it to number 1 on the list, Aaron Rodgers, the Green Bay Packers. So I'm going to stick with my pick that Josh Allen should be the MVP, but he's not the best quarterback. That's Aaron Rodgers. I would say Allen has a worse team, and that's why I put him as MVP. But Aaron Rodgers, number 1 quarterback this year. You can't really argue with a 121.5 quarterback rating. I mean, the next highest was Watson, I think, with 112, but Rodgers at 121.5. That is really good, and I think it's the 2nd best ever. He also has the 1st best ever. 13-3, 6 games. He was 4,299 yards, so almost 4,300 yards. 70.7% completion, which was the top of the list. 49 touchdowns and just 5 picks. So, by the way, that's almost 10-1, right? That's 9-1, almost 10-1. If he had 1 more touchdown, he would have had a 10-1 touchdown to pick percentage. He also caught a pass for -6 yards and rushed for 3 touchdowns, 150 yards there. So, Aaron Rodgers, I think he's pretty much undisputedly the best. So there we go. Thanks for watching, everybody. Leave a like, leave a comment. What did I get wrong and right about this list? And, yeah, make sure to subscribe to the Northwest Sportscast. Thanks for watching.